And I think it's time that we take off that particular mask.
So these Bohemians, that they meet once a year up in San Francisco?
For the last 2 weeks of July, from July 15th to the end of July, they meet for 2 weeks every year.
For two solid continuous
For 2
weeks?
solid weeks. They meet in conclave, and some of the most important movie stars, national leaders from around the world, and they say it's the only place that that enemies, so-called enemies on both sides of a war, can meet quietly behind the scenes and be friends.
So they go out for this 2-week period of bonding and socializing?
Socializing and chit-chatting and getting together to decide what war they're going to have next time and who's going to be the enemy and who will be the good guy. And so,
Jordan, we have pictures.
And remember, war is good business.
We have pictures with the president with his hand stretched out, holding a red rose.
But I have about 15 major color pictures of communist leaders throughout the world holding a red rose in their hand, and these are from newspapers and magazines. I began to pick up on this because someone alerted me to it, that the symbol of the red rose implies not only socialism and communism, but a secret society operating behind socialism and communism that uses the red rose.
This way out Willie holding the rose. We find Khrushchev, we find
all the communist leaders,
all of the communist leaders, and then we find the President of the United States over in his early years leading anti-American demonstrations in the Soviet Union.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that it's not enough to say these things. You really must show the pictures so that people will see that what we're talking about here are symbols and emblems.
Well, even Hitler used red and black, didn't he?
Yes, he certainly did.
And he said that Nazism is similar to socialism, didn't he?
Well, Nazi means National Socialist. National Socialist means Nazi. Benito Mussolini was, before he founded the fascist party, was associated with the Communist Party. In fact, Adolf Hitler, on February 5th, I think it was 1941, he said basically National Socialism and Marxism are the same. The whole of National Socialism is based on it.
That's interesting, because here we have Gorbachev very frequently using the term New World Order, and he says it's going to bring about a new world community, a new kind of civilization, in fact, quote unquote. And then we had Hitler using the same term, we had Bush using the same term.
August 23rd, 1939. What are the fellows doing here? They are putting together an agreement, the Commun-Nazi Peace Pact, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Peace Pact, the Hitler-Stalin Pact. They joined together, and then on September 1st, 1939, what did? They were talking about the invasion of Poland. And they did, in fact, invade Poland and rape and ravage that particular nation.
Now, let me bring up this point, that if you remember that Mussolini was an ally of Adolf Hitler, and that Adolf Hitler signed 2 concordant contracts with the Vatican. The Pope Pius XII signed 2 contracts with Adolf Hitler, that he would throw full Catholic support in Europe behind the new regime of Adolf Hitler if Hitler, upon winning the World War, would establish the Roman Catholic Church as the only legitimate religion of the world under the new order of the world. So there was a contract.
In Dr. Anthony Sutton's book, Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler, we find that the Bush family was heavily involved in financing Hitler, and the Kennedy family as well.
Right. The point is, I want to continue with this. When you understand, we're talking about the Vatican, we're talking about Hitler and Mussolini, we're talking about the fascists of Europe in war with America and England. Now we're talking about the Empire Strikes Back, and as we said in the last program, New York is the Empire State. That's why you have Steven Spielberg and George Lucas movies talking about the Lost Ark, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Who was going for the Lost Ark with Indiana Jones but Adolf Hitler? And in The Last Crusade, it's Adolf Hitler again. So what we're
Hollywood
talking about
making figures not for the profit, but for the propaganda.
For the propaganda.
Yes.
But you see, they know what they're saying. And as I brought out to you before, the old magic practicing priest of England, the old Celtic priest, used to work their magic like Merlin the magician with his magic wand. And magic wands were always made out of Hollywood. So I'm saying that Hollywood has been used by, and that's why motion picture stars are called movie stars. Because in the Bible, stars were referred to as lesser illuminaries. So these lesser illuminaries are working for the big Illuminati.
So
the big Illuminati are using the lesser Illuminati. The lesser illuminaries are just stars.
So what you're saying, Jordan, is most of us are asleep.
We're
We're
totally
very
asleep.
subtly being conditioned by a number of occultic organizations, occultic attacks, occultic conspirators to condition us into this.
Well,
coming
we are
satanic
being
world.
awakened, really, to
Right.
the New World Order. You take
Right.
a look in like Time magazine. I'm going to bring it out again. You say you want a revolution, but are we willing to pay the price? They're talking, we don't want a revolution, we want a revelation. They said, who pays for Yasser Arafat? You know who pays for Yasser Arafat? Who gets Yasser Arafat's fat out of the fire? The United States government came over there to Lebanon when his back was against the sea. He would have been wiped out by the Israeli army. And the United States says, no, 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 because they want to control this particular conflict. They brought U.S. troops and U.S. ships to get Yasser Arafat's out of the fire and bring him over to Libya. Because they wanted him alive, because they want a controlled conflict. The same thing is happening in South Central Los Angeles. The same thing is happening in major cities throughout the United States and throughout the world. This is conflict control, and the symbols are everywhere.
Let me explain to the audience something very simple in relation to what you're saying. In Africa, and the big game hunters in Africa for many years used to, when you go out to hunt the big game, you wouldn't go into the jungle to look for the big game. You would hire many of the natives to go out with cans and bottles and surround about a 10-mile circle out in front of you and work in, beating cans and bottles and screaming and frightening your prey, the lion or the animal that you're looking for, and he's your prey. And you keep closing in until finally whatever is out there comes out into the open and he's a sitting duck. That is precisely what has been happening for the last 100 years. The Illuminati have been purposely organizing, directing, and financing wars, revolutions, violence, and bloodshed, so that it will sufficiently impress and frighten the world of humanity into accepting a new order, a new police state that will finally put down all the law and order, the disorder in the world. And it is the oldest trick in the book. Our greatest enemy is not in a crack house, it's in the White House. It's not in a bar room, it's in the boardrooms. And so the point I'm making is that we are being manipulated from the very top. And we need to wake up and find out that America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave, because we're not free and we darn sure ain't brave any longer.
Well, it's time to wake the town and tell the sheeple. We're being led like sheep to the slaughter. I don't know if you've ever seen sheep go to the slaughter, but they are generally led by a Judas goat. The Judas goat will bring them all the way up the ramp, and right before they drop the trap on the sheep, the Judas goat steps to the side.
And that's why they have their offspring, these Illuminati refer to their offspring in their publications as their children, their offspring. They refer to your offspring as kids. You have kids because you're just like a goat.
Sheep.
You're sheeple. That's why you have kids.
And your children are going to be slaughtered if you go along with the program. There's no question about it. They're going to be identified. They're going to be marked. Hillary, how much clout? Well, Hillary has brought in Janet Reno. I keep thinking of Janet Reno as sort of Hyman Himmler in drag.
Yeah.
There was a war waged on a Christian church in Waco. This is the first time there has been an armed military assault against the United States people since the Civil War.
And we ate it, didn't we?
And the people sat back and said, oh, well, God, we got to get rid of that fanatic, those crazies out there.
Well,
They said, in the name of God, Time magazine, what happens when believers embrace the dark side of faith? Now, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, Koresh never went in and attacked the ATF. He had never attacked the government attacked them.
Well, there appears to be no substantiation for it. Those are allegations made by the government. But it's interesting.
I think the orders to slaughter, Reno gave the orders from, which came down from the President
Well, the
of the
very
United
first
States.
indictments were sealed. We still don't know what he's guilty of. They have sealed indictments, and we'll never know what he was supposedly
Mass
guilty
murder in
of.
America, and the sheep,
And the people
they're
go along
looking
with
up. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going down.
But you know, the ironic thing of this is that the government used the fact that allegedly Koresh had been perhaps molesting some children, and so they said, well, we have to save the children by going in and killing them all.